How you doing, Nancy?
Conference will now be recorded.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Tazewell County Board meeting. We're going to try this again, like we did last week. We're going to begin with the roll call. John, if you could call the roll, please.
Atkins.
Here.
Connick.
Here.
Crawford.
Here.
Darcy.
Here.
Graff.
Here.
Hall.
Here.
Harris.
Here.
Holford. Holford. Hovey.
Here.
Emig.
Here.
Joesting. Joesting, was that up here? You're on the call, right? Joe? Kim?
Hello?
Kim Joesting, are you there?
This is Holford.
Longfellow?
No, not Longfellow. Holford.
Yep, I was going to come back to you. Okay, Holford's there. Longfellow?
Yes. Yes.
Minnell?
Here.
Minton?
Here.
Newhouser?
Here.
Frail?
Here.
Rich Stimson?
Here.
Scortino?
Here.
Sin?
Here.
Sundell?
Here.
Wolf?
Here.
Chairman Zimmerman?
Here.
We have quorum.
All right, everyone. Again, welcome. We're going to begin with the invocation and the pledge. And we'll just leave the pledge here. If you could just mute your calls, because trying to... So we'll begin with the invocation. Heavenly Father, thank you for the privilege of meeting together during these difficult times. I pray that we know that you're the great physician and you're a sovereign God, so even in the midst of chaos, we can feel your peace and your presence. Thank you for this board and the free country that we live in, and that we can debate these issues and not necessarily agree, but do these in a civil manner and do what we think is right for the citizens of Tazewell County and our employees. And we thank you for that privilege. We lift up Stuart Umholtz tonight as he lost his father last week. I pray that he can feel your comfort through these difficult times, and those of us that have been there can come alongside also. Thank you for, again, the privilege of serving in this great county. We pray all these things in your name. Amen. And now we'll say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, if you could mute your phones, that would be great. Item C, we did not receive any communications from the public or county employees, so we'll move on. Item D, are there any comments from elected or appointed county officials? Hearing none, we'll move on. And as you make a motion and a second, if you could include your name, that would make the meeting go a lot smoother. So I'd like to get a motion to approve the minutes from the March 25th meeting.
So moved.
By
Holford. Holford.
motion by Holford.
Yes. Sundell.
Second by Sundell. The minutes were sent out. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? A motion passes. We have several in-place committee meetings tonight. The first one is in-place transportation. Chairman Mennel, I'll turn it over to you, and Sue is here, so she'll take the roll for us.
Okay, call the Transportation Committee meeting to order. Sue, could you call the roll for us, please?
Chairman Mennel,
Here.
Sin,
Here.
Crawford,
Here.
Holford,
Here.
Hovey,
Here.
Longfellow, Rick Longfellow, Minton,
Here.
Crail.
Here.
You have a quorum.
You have a quorum, Greg. You can go ahead.
Okay, we have one item of business tonight. And that is T20-13. It's the 2020 road maintenance program. We had a bid letting, a virtual bid letting that Craig held a week ago Monday, and we had one bidder. And the bid was Conan. It came in at a 1.5% above the engineer's estimate, which is well within the acceptable limits. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I do have a list of the roads that this covers. It's 13.267 miles, various roads around the county, and these funds are motor fuel tax funds to be expended. They've been collected over the last 9 months, and they're so this isn't money that isn't there. The money is there to be used, and normally we try and use that money, them funds, the year, after they're deposited, and so I would recommend going ahead and approving this.
Motion by Crawford to approve.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries, and we're in recess.
Thank you, Greg. We're going to move on to an in-place property meeting. Chairman Harris.
Sue, would you call roll, please?
Chairman Harris,
Here.
Joesting, Darcy,
Here.
Graff,
Here.
Newhouser,
Here.
Shortino,
Here.
Wolf.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. I lost my agenda on the computer, so I think the only thing they have on there is the HVAC at the Animal Control Center.
Yes.
The funds are coming out of the animal control budget, not budget. He receives enough revenue to pay for it himself. So that's where it's coming from, and I recommend it. So I entertain a motion to approve the HVAC for the Animal Control Center.
So moved. Holford.
Motion by Holford, second by...
No, hey, Mike Harris. Ms. Holford's not on the committee, so it needs to
Motion by
be,
Wolf.
Okay, that's right.
motion by Wolf, I heard.
Yeah, motion by Joe, second by Graff. Any comments or questions? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries and we're recessed.
Thank you, Mike. We have an in-place finance committee meeting tonight. Chairman Newhouser?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sue, would you call the roll, please?
Chairman Newhouser, Graff,
Here.
Atkins,
Here.
Conick, Darcy,
Here.
Harris,
Here.
Emig,
Here.
Mennel,
Here.
Minton,
Here.
Frail,
Here.
Shortino.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. We have two items on our agenda tonight. The first one is item F-20-09, approve a transfer request for county administration. Can I get a motion to get that on the floor, please? I heard a motion by Conick and second by Harris. So if you read your information, we have two invoices from the Central Illinois EDC with regards to the closing out of our revolving loan fund. They did a lot of work for us with regards to researching that process and guiding us through how to spend down those funds, but use them for the proper purposes. So there's two invoices for $6,000 each, and the total amount would be $12,000 taken out of contingency to pay the consultants for this work. So are there any questions about this motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried, thank you. The second item is to approve a lease agreement for our court services fleet vehicles. Can I get a motion to get that on the floor, please? Harris? Okay, I had a motion by Harris and second by Darcy, thank you. In your packet was some information provided by John Horan with regards to a lease agreement that he would like to enter into with regards to leasing some vehicles for their use within court services. We've been in a situation where that fleet has become fairly old. Most of the vehicles are 10 years or older in age, and we're starting to have to pay for a number of maintenance items, and it's just time to either buy new ones or do something separate. So John has done quite a bit of research into a new arrangement on leasing vehicles. He had engaged Assistant State's Attorney Mike Holly with regards to all of the documentation that you've seen, the contractual language, and negotiated the terms of the agreement. So Mike Holly was very helpful in reviewing that and has given his approval with regards to the terms of the agreement. So John would like to enter into this agreement and start to lease vehicles and replace the ones in the fleet. In looking at it, it looks to be a cost savings year over year. The money to do this was budgeted in this FY or fiscal year budget, so we're not asking for additional funds to do this. And hopefully by the end of the year, we will see a reduction in maintenance costs, but also have newer vehicles that have the latest safety features, and it will just be a better situation all the way around. I think John is probably on the phone. John, would you like to add anything to that?
No, you did. You summarized it perfect.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
John, while you're there, could you tell us, like, bottom line, what you're projecting the savings of this as far as leasing? I know I read through the things, but just the bottom line or a dollar amount could you put to that instead of buying and purchasing as far as this year's budget and possibly the next year? Because I realize when we go into this, we're so many thousands of dollars that we got to come up with. So what's the bottom line savings in respect to this vehicle?
I don't know if I can give you, I haven't worked up the bottom line savings as a, projected per vehicle, but if I was asking for a new vehicle, through the state and to just purchase outright like I've done in the past, by the time it's equipped and we get it going with all the equipment that we need, you're right around a $25,000 expenditure for one vehicle, one time. And then, of course, that depends how long you're going to keep it and things like that. So you can look at the numbers there when you're looking at I think it's around $11,000, just a little over $11,000 to be the projected yearly cost on two vehicles. There's sort of the difference there.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question, or?
Sure.
John,
Yeah.
this is Tony Benson. I just had a question. So if we are phasing into this new enterprise department we do have, won't we be selling those and then putting them towards the enterprise then?
Yeah, so I didn't, there was like 11 different attachments, so I wanted you guys to be able to just kind of get the main master lease agreement and then a summary of what I'm looking to do. There were several other attachments there that we reviewed. There is three vehicles that we're going to be, that they will take over, and they go ahead and they have a lot more selling power, so vehicles in the past when we've traded, we've actually had to pay for them to take the vehicles. They're willing to take three of the ones that I identified with real high mileage, and that will then be applied back towards our lease agreement.
Okay, good. Thank you very much.
This is Mindy Darcy. I have a question. Okay, so if it's a little over $11,000, I think 11,700 some, for two vehicles for 1 year, does that dollar amount stay the same for those two vehicles for the term of the lease?
Yes,
and how much okay, go ahead.
It's a 60-month, so it's a 5-year lease agreement that we are not bound to. We can get in or out of that at any time. Typically, their program is they're watching our vehicles rather close, and when the right time, when the value is right, they'll ask, recommend that we would then bring in another vehicle and replace, but we don't have to.
Okay, so it'll be $700 for the two vehicles for as many years as we keep them. At some point are they paid off?
Yes. Yeah, so just like any vehicle.
Okay.
Yes.
I just want to make sure I'm understanding that correctly. So the maximum that we'll pay into these two vehicles will be about $60,000.
Right, it'd be basically both going through 5-year agreement.
Yeah, okay, so around $30,000 for each vehicle.
Yeah, they're a little bit more than that. I think with cages and things, I think it's like closer to like 32.
Okay, so if we are normally buying cars for around $25,000,
yeah.
Does that not sound like it's more money to go this way? Do we get something else out of it that by then?
Yes. So we also, not only are we getting then equity back, so when they're watching the value for us and recommending to go ahead and move a vehicle out of the fleet and back in, we're realizing some savings there that they will then put back into our lease agreement. So we would save a little bit there potentially. We're saving just on the general safety and all that type of stuff. But the other part of that too is a maintenance agreement that is part of this. package. So, anything that needs repaired during that period of time, we take to the dealership like we normally would. We get approval for that, and the amount that we're paying for the maintenance agreement will take care of those repairs. So our repairs will be much less on those two specific vehicles through the lease agreement.
Okay, so like what types of things are considered repairs?
So I know like basic stuff like your tires, brakes, oil changes and things like that, we go ahead and pay. And I don't recall exactly specifically above that what other repairs that are covered under that. But if it's not covered by warranty, it would be covered under the maintenance agreement.
Okay.
I can, if you need that, I have the rep. She's having trouble listening to the stream, but she can call in to the conference call if we need more specific questions answered like that.
No, I'm just trying to see the value if we're paying a little bit more for the car. And I do get what you're saying about we'll get some of the value credited back to the car when we trade it in or dispose of it. But just trying to understand the full value of going through the leasing option. It is a little bit more money that way. That's all. Just trying to understand. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, are there any other questions for John?
Yeah, question for John. John, I asked a question even on the committee.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, my question is this. I've heard everything. I trust John. It's probably a better deal. But my concern is, and it's been a concern for about 25 years in Tazewell County, that we have a lot of vehicles. We have community development, coroner, sheriff, health department, among other departments that have vehicles. And we've never hired a fleet manager to coordinate and make more efficient the processes that we use. So my point is this: I hope somebody will take a look, a deep look at what John's doing, and if there's really a savings, that we have an encouragement for these other departments with vehicles to do the same thing.
Yeah, thanks, Russ. Just a comment on that really quickly, and I think, John, correct me if I'm wrong, but this program was presented to or made available to anybody with fleets within our county. And John is kind of, yes, for lack of a better word, acting as a guinea pig for the county with regards to this program, because it really fit his use, number one, but also we wanted to give it a try to see how it worked and if there were savings to be had. But I think your comment is really good, that we need to take input from John with regards to how this works and the performance of the program, so that it might be something we could apply in other parts of the county. But at this time, it's just going to be his department that came up with the idea to do this. So, but I think that's a great comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried, thank you. And I need to apologize, I skipped over item A on our agenda, and that is approval of our network license renewal. So can I get a motion for to approve that, please?
So moved, Mention.
Second by Atkins.
Okay, thank you, Bill. And this is approved going up, or to go out for bids for our network license renewal. Wendy, do you have any more information on that?
No, this is something that we do every year, and it's just above the threshold for Scott just going out to get pricing. I think it's right at that, right at the cusp of it. So this is something we need, though, to continue to run our computers on our current system. So he'll be doing that here in the next month, and then bring it back to you in the month of May.
Okay, great, thank you. Any questions on this? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Pose same sign. Okay, motion carried, thank you. And just finally, real briefly, our accounting software update. Spoke with Auditor Haranka this month, and she's been working with Craig Peters and the group to continue to fine tune that. It looks like we'll be able to do a test run on that coming up next month, and we should be able to start to begin to use that software for the upcoming budgeting process. I know we're going to be doing a lot of wanting to do a lot of projecting and forecasting, and hopefully the software it'll be good timing to be able to utilize that. So again, we'll keep you posted if anything changes, but things are proceeding along there. So is there anything else for the committee tonight? Okay, we're recessed, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Next, we have an in-place human resources meeting. Chairman Prail.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sue, will call the roll, please.
Chairman Crail.
Here.
Darcy.
Here.
Here.
Atkins. Connick. Graff.
Are you saying on? I'm sorry.
Yes, Connick. Got it. Graff. Graff.
Yeah.
Harris.
Here.
Emmett.
Here.
Mennel.
Here.
Minton.
Here.
Newhouser.
Here.
Shortino.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you, Sue. I think we could hear you better toward the end. Thank you for that. I have one item for on the agenda for tonight. It's HR 2013. Do I have a motion to push that before the committee?
Motion.
Minton, motion, and Harris second. That was, I couldn't.
Fine.
That Harris second? Well, I couldn't tell you. Okay, that's recommending approval of the FFCRA CARES Act amendment to the employee benefit plan. Wendy, would you like to comment on this, please?
Sure. So this was a recommendation from IPMG. I'm sure most of you know that they put forward the federal government put forward the Families First Coronavirus Response Act and Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. And with that came some requirements that businesses will basically cover COVID tests and treatment. So this is basically just a mandate that we are putting into our plan. Partly the reason we would do that is because then we will send this to our stop loss carrier, and those will be covered and account towards our stop loss coverage. As you know, our stop loss coverage is $125,000 per employee, so we would want that to count towards that amount, because if we ever go above $125,000, that's when the secondary insurance kicks in, which means Tazewell County stops paying out of pocket. So IPMG has sent this through their legal has used their legal expertise to do this and did an analysis of all of the requirements, and they made this recommendation to us, so we would put this in our plan.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Wendy? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the recommendation signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion passes. I have no further business for the committee. We are in recess. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. We have one more in-place meeting because in-place risk has been pulled. So in-place executive, Sue, if you could call the roll, please.
Chairman Zimmerman.
Here.
Newhouser.
Here.
Connick.
Here.
Darcy.
Here.
Graff.
Here.
Harris.
Here.
Emick.
Here.
Joesting.
Here.
Mennel.
Here.
Frail.
Here.
Sin,
Here.
Sundell,
Here.
you have a quorum.
Great, thank you, Sue. Several things tonight. The first one is just an approval, or we need approval to go out for an RFP for 2 grants, and this is for the loan fund that we're turning into some 88 projects, excuse me. And we want to add part of the what we're approving tonight is the 2 grants upon the recipient of the notice of the state award finalists and the execution of the environmental review exemptions. So if we get those, so if I could get a motion for approval just to go out for the RFPs, that'd be great.
Prayer, motion.
Motion by Prail,
Harris.
second by Harris. Any questions? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The approval passes. The next is our quarterly payment to the Greater Peoria EDC. Can I get a motion for E20-41?
Emmett moves.
Motion by Emmett.
Second,
And second by
Connor.
second by Monica Conant.
Yes.
Are there any questions? And I will say before we hopefully approve this, the EDC has been just another right hand for us in getting through this grant program that the state has initiated, and hopefully our Tazewell County businesses will benefit from this. So any other questions? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Did somebody vote no? Sorry about that. So motion passes. I'll move on to E2942 to move back by 1 month the first payment of the property taxes. Can I get a motion?
Darcy.
Motion by Darcy.
Sundell.
Motion second by Sin. And what we're doing here is Mary has asked that the first installment of property taxes be July 1st instead of June 1st. The second installment will still be September 1st. And then Mary and her staff will work as hard as they can to get that first installment out to the municipalities and schools within hopefully 8 to 10 days. So are there any questions on that? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. And then finally, if I could get a motion for appointments A through L.
Emmett moves.
Motion by Emig,
Crawford, second.
second by Crawford. Russ, I'm sorry.
Are you an exec? Sorry.
Yeah, this is exec. So can I get a second?
Second, Prail.
Harris.
No.
Second by Prail. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, appointments are all passed, and we are out of executive committee.
Good, David, you have a good point. I was text while we were reading about Woodford County's decision of not enforcing the governor's stay at home. And one of the state attorney representative would comment on this.
You know what? Can we wait until we get through the agenda, and there are several things that we'll need to cover at the end? Are you okay with that, Craig?
That'd be fine.
Okay, great. All right, that brings us down to the consent agenda. And nothing's consent tonight. We'll just go everything.
Motion by Crawford if there's anything left.
Well, we're down to the consent agenda. There's nothing that we can take as a whole. And there's only 7, so we'll go ahead and just do these individually. These just all came out of committee tonight. So can I get a motion for T2013 that just came out of transportation?
I'll move Mennel.
Motion by Mennel, second.
Sundell.
Second by Sundell. Any questions? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Down to the property, can I get a motion for P 2014?
Harris.
Motion by Rich Simpson, second by Harris. Any questions? All those in favor signify by aye. Motion those opposed? Motion passes. Down to finance, item 3, F2009. Can I get a motion?
Motion Minton.
Motion by Conitt, second by Minton. Any questions? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Down to approval of the leasing agreement. Can I get a motion?
Wolf.
Motion by Wolf. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second by Atkins. Any questions? All those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Human Resources, can I get a motion for HR 2013?
Minton.
Motion by Minton, second. Second by Shortino. Any questions? All those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. The payment to the EDC, E2041, can I get a motion? Motion by Josting, get a second?
Harris.
Second by Harris. All those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Item E2042, can I get a motion?
Minton.
Motion by Minton, second by Atkins. Any questions? All those in favor signify by aye.
I'm sorry, Dave, can I ask a question on it here?
Yes, please, yes.
Is Mary gonna be able to do that, or is she gonna have to have some of her extra help, part-time help?
When I talked to Mary this week, she thought that she could get it accomplished with her existing staff. But I think she's got a big task ahead of her, and she's preparing for it. Mary, are you
on the line.
Okay, Mary, do you want to take that?
I am on the line, and we are gonna try everything possible not to call in part-time.
Well, haven't you got that Mary, don't you have that in your budget anyway? Because you usually hire part-time for, your season.
I do, but I'm trying to, cut where I can.
I understand, and that's greatly appreciated, so, okay. That's all my question I had, and I thank you. I didn't realize you were on the line. Thank you very much.
No problem, any other comment? Part of it.
Any other questions?
Well, I have a comment, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank Mary for arranging this, because I've heard people are very, very happy to know that we're considering the people in the community, in the county.
Thank you, Mary.
Yep. Excellent point, Nancy. Thanks for bringing that up. All those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. And then can I get a motion for appointments A through L?
Wolf.
Motion by Wolf, second by Shortino. All those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Okay, now as we're in the committee of the whole, towards the end here, I'd like to have the budget reopened to send back to Finance Committee. And I'll give you my my rationale here. We need a 2/3 vote to make this happen. So we'll do a roll call. Before I start that, I did have one member request that Assistant State's Attorney Mike Holly explain this budget process. So Mike, if you're on the line, can you kind of explain the process?
Sure. Yeah, this is Mike Holly. I will be as brief about it as possible. The statute that relates to reopening the budget indicates that after the adoption of an annual budget, that if the board by a 2/3 vote of the total members makes a finding that revenue received or to be received by the county during the fiscal year is going to be substantially less than what was projected, then by another separate 2/3 vote, amendments can be made to the budget. The other section of that statute indicates that the board's authority to amend the budget is the same as its authority to adopt the original budget, which would indicate that all the public hearings, the notice, all the requirements that went into adopting the original budget would apply to then that process of amending and adopting the amended budget. So I guess that would mean for the process is that the initial step would be if the board wants to reopen the budget, that there would be a 2/3 majority vote making that finding that the revenue received is substantially less than what was projected. If that 2/3 vote takes place and passes successfully, then the board would be able to refer that back through the same budget process as the board went through for the original adoption of the budget. So the normal course would be that the Finance Budget Committee go through the process of examining the budget, involve the elected officials and all the county departments, trying to identify what the proper budget would be, and then go forward from there and make recommendations to the full county board to adopt by another 2/3 majority.
Thank you, Mike. Are there any questions regarding the process for Mike tonight before we talk about what we would like to do here?
Mike, this is Tony Minton. I just had a question. Should, since never doing this before, should the Finance Committee get together and look at where we cut so we know that that information is correct before we make a motion to reopen it? Or can we reopen it and look at it and then do something or not do something?
A committee could look at what, are you talking about looking at the projected revenues to see if that finding can be made by the board? Okay.
Right,
Yeah.
go through the motion and look at it beforehand, so we have like information to say this is why we're doing it.
Yeah, I think that would be acceptable if the committee wanted to review that first before the board takes a vote on that particular initial finding. Because the board adopted the original budget and there's 2/3 of the total that's required to make that original for that initial finding, it just sort of makes sense to have the county board as a whole address it, since that's the last, I guess, the last committee or the last public body to have addressed that original budget. Sort of like if you would do like a motion to reconsider, the last action taken was by the county board. But in the process of looking at the budget, I don't see any problem if there's a preference to have the committee look at that initial issue first and then the board take a later vote.
Mr. Chairman, this is Crawford.
Yes, Russ, go ahead.
Because of Mr. Holly's last response to the last question, I have a substitute motion to offer rather than just direct the budget committee to reopen the budget. And it would be, I make a substitute motion to authorize the finance committee to make recommendations to the Tazewell County Board, which would then require reopening the FY 2020 budget. That means that the Finance Committee, which doesn't have the authority to open anything, They can do all their work, make their package of recommendations, and then at that point, at that meeting of the county board, they would then first, as Mr. Holly indicated, be required to pass by 2/3 vote a budget, a motion to reopen the budget, and then we could vote on the adoption or not of any of the specific recommendations. So I offer that substitute motion.
Thank you, unless that's what you're trying to say.
This is my colleague. I think the issue with that particular procedure is ensuring that the public is put on notice that the board is reopening the budget and has an opportunity to participate in that process. I think the board needs to take initially that 2/3 vote finding that revenues are projected to be substantially less, and then go back through the process. If the budget committee goes through making their recommendations and the board doesn't vote to reopen the budget until they've already got those recommendations prepared for them, the required notices, the required hearings, the opportunity to have the public fully participate in that process is significantly less. I don't think it would meet the requirements that the statutes contemplate.
Here's Mr. Holly, this is Mr. Crawford. You're saying that it's simply a notice in the newspaper that says the notice to the public that says there's going to be finance committee meetings to discuss projected changes to the FY20 budget. These meetings would be open to the public. That wouldn't suffice?
No, I don't believe so. The statute specifically indicates that that 2/3 majority vote has to take place to initiate, to initiate the process. First, that finding is made by a 2/3 majority vote. At that point, then the budget is subject to being re-examined by the board. And because the powers to amend the budget would be similar to those that the board exercises to adopt the original budget, all of the same notice and public hearing requirements would apply to changes being made to the budget and an amended budget being adopted. Those same hearings and notice requirements that apply to the original budget process. And I think, as you know, the original budget process has some very particular requirements as far as having the proposed budget on, made available to the public to review, and some particular public hearing requirements that don't necessarily apply to other county board business.
But this is the last I'm going to stick on this. I just want to tell you that I've been through reopening the budget several times during my county board career, and we've always had one motion by 2/3 vote to reopen the budget. We've never had more than one. So this is a new wrinkle all of a sudden that you've come up with that we've never done before. And the law is the same.
Well, I can't speak to what was done in the past. I can only talk about what is appropriate now.
So Russ, are you withdrawing your motion?
Yeah, I'll withdraw my motion because I don't want to argue with Mr. Holly.
Okay.
Okay, I have a question, Mrs. Coniff.
Yes. Go ahead,
You
Marty.
have on here number 9, approved direction to the Finance Budget Committee to reopen. Approved direction. So if we're approving the direction, so we're just going to say yes, we want it open, or no, we have to vote on it. Correct? Is that what you're saying this does?
That's correct.
So it's approved direction.
So what will happen is we'll take this vote.
It should be an authorization to the Finance Budget Committee.
So,
Okay, I do have some comments before we go any further to go voting on this.
Go ahead,
I
Marty.
will say that I am really not in favor of opening this budget. I think it's pretty soon. We only have about 4 months left in this particular budget before we start talking about next year's budget. for the 21. A lot can happen, and we don't have any facts or data at this point. We have pure speculation. We know we're going to be less in our budget. I guess the next question I have would be to Wendy, how much money do we actually have in reserve?
She's looking it up as we speak. And Monica,
Okay.
we do have a forecast from Craig Peters that shows we could be up to $7.5 million in the hole.
Okay, worst scenario. So a few weeks or whatever that they start opening up. And I understand, I saw those projections, but that's the worst case scenario. I just think it's kind of premature because we really don't have at this point how quick or this is all unknown territory. And I understand why people want to jump on the bandwagon real quick, but we have to understand that we don't know what's going to be not coming in or what is coming in. We're down to pretty bare bones anyway. And we know we pretty much have the money for this year, for this budget, pretty much covered at this point, but possibly we'll be dipping in reserves, which I'm sure we probably will, but we really need to know things like how much is in reserve and how much that we can stand, because we need to start looking at facts and figures, not speculation. And I understand that he gave us 3 different things, the short and midterm and long term. I got that. But I just really don't, I think we're kind of premature at this point. Because we really don't know what direction or path that we're looking at.
So Monica,
Dave?
yeah, go ahead, Mike. Go ahead, Mike.
We're just opening the budget to start the process. We can't make any decisions on what we're cut till finance gets into it, but we need to start the process to get things going. And I'm going to support this all the way.
It will still take a month or 2 for this to happen, because by the time we open it up, get it sent to finance, I don't know how many meetings it'll take for them, and then it'll have to come back to us. So we'll be getting information as we come along. Do you have a number, Mike?
So I have 2 numbers. So per the budget that we put through, because we don't have our final audited numbers yet, we would have a beginning fund balance of $21 million. Mary just told me that cash on hand, we have about 2.5 months worth. So I asked her if that's typical. She's on the line. She may be able to provide more information as well. So yeah, like, and Monica, you're right. They're not firm numbers. Unfortunately, when we do the budget, those aren't firm numbers either. We never know exactly what we're going to receive. Craig has put quite a bit of work into this, working with a lot of the other county officials in other counties. But I understand. I mean, it's a little bit nerve-wracking, and we don't have the answers for everybody. So I can understand your concern as well.
Okay, and we have to be reminded too, we aren't Peoria or City of Peoria, Pekin, where they have a terrible deficit. And we've been pretty good stewards, but you said roughly 20, as I understood you say, I didn't hear very well, 21 million. And you said, Mary said it's a couple months worth, and that's if everything just stopped dead still. I mean, I understand that. And I don't want to lag behind, but I do not, we're down to bare bones now. I'm just really, I think within the next few weeks we should know more, but every week is another week that we're standing back. So, I mean, I guess we have to decide on our own whether we're going to do this or not. So I'll be quiet now. Thank you.
So if we wait another month to do this, and then it'll take another month for finance to come up with the issues, and then it'll have to be, we'll be in a big hole. And I just don't think, we're not making any cuts tonight. We're just keeping this option open for finance as information comes available. It may go to finance and they may say, we're just gonna take everything from reserves, or they may just say, we're gonna have to make across the board cuts. We don't know, but we just wanna keep this option open. Was someone else?
Mr. Chairman, can I ask you?
Go ahead, Nancy.
Well, my comment is that I think it would be remiss, and I understand where Monica's coming from. Nobody wants to really look at this yet. We'd rather hope things will come along fine, and we have done well so far. But I think it'd be irresponsible of us not to take this